Hello guys, welcome to Sports Banner 38. I am Coach Carroll, and today we're going to talk about what happened in college football conference championship games yesterday, as well as how they may divvy out the playoffs bids today at 12 Eastern, I believe. It's noon Eastern, so for all those who are interested in watching that. As far as my picks, I was actually correct on pretty much all the picks I had. I figured Oklahoma and Ohio State would both win. Of course, Clemson would win. I said Alabama would win in a close one. A lot of people made out like there was no way Georgia could win. Better yet, people don't think it's possible that Alabama can lose. That is just not correct. And I still feel like they're going to drop a game this year, and unfortunately it wasn't this one, because we all know, unfortunately for them, that is, if you don't like Alabama, then hey. But had they lost this game, they're in the playoffs anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. I believe had they lost this game, they probably go to the playoffs, and they probably go ahead and win out in the playoffs. But since they did not lose in the playoffs, I feel like they were exposed a little bit. Georgia's got a good defense. They got young talent that is very good. The problem is they're young, they're inexperienced, but yet the talent there was able to help them stay in this game. And actually, I say stay in the game, basically take hold of this game and then kind of just lose it in the end. So they had the game, they had it in the bag. They kind of let it get away from them. And, and I know it's going to be made a big deal of how Jalen Hurts come in and won this game, and, it's kind of a flip-flop of last year with Tua taking his place and winning in Georgia. The issue is this. Georgia, if they could play Alabama and just play one quarterback the whole game, the guy they prepared for, because they're different quarterbacks. And they wasn't prepared for Jalen Hurts yesterday. They were prepared for Tua, just like in the national championships. I believe had they played Tua the entire game, I believe they hold on and win a close one, just like losing a close one. Same thing as yesterday. Had they prepared for Jalen Hurts the whole game, I believe they probably win by probably even more, a touchdown or two. I don't know. But Alabama switching up, they didn't have a choice yesterday. But the fact that Hurts come in, he's a different player. They prepared differently, and it did affect that game, and it affected Georgia. But these guys, they're not gonna get another shot at Alabama this year, because I don't believe they're going to get into the playoffs. Even if you may think they are one of the top 4 teams, there's a lot of politics involved. People across the country, for the most part, do not want 2 SEC teams in the playoffs like last year. Had Georgia run the table, they probably would have got in, other than losing the SEC championship. But they slipped up against LSU, and then here we go back to the college football math that people like to say. Well, Alabama beat LSU 29-0, and LSU beat Georgia by 20 or what have you. That stuff doesn't work. It's all about matchups, and the simple fact is Georgia matches up better with Alabama than LSU did. Even if LSU beat Georgia, in the regular season, that does not matter. Georgia matches up better with Alabama than LSU does. Okay, Georgia has a quarterback that can get it done. And not taking anything away from Barrow, I just don't think he's quite consistent enough. And that team offensively, they don't do anything special. There is no like innovation in their offensive scheme or philosophy, in my opinion. They just don't do anything that wows you. They have to overpower you with better athletes, or they can't beat you, and they can't do that against Alabama. Georgia, I feel like, have better athletes on offense and defense than LSU does, and they also they got a little more innovation in their schemes, both offensively and defensively, and that showed yesterday. They were able to, granted Alabama dropped some balls and stuff like that, but you know what? Alabama's on the same stage as Georgia, so there's no excuses. They dropped balls, they did this, they did that. Did they play their best? Probably not. You can't say that Georgia necessarily played their best either, although I do believe they played better than Alabama did and still lost. So there you go. But as far as the playoff, Alabama's going to be number 1. Clemson's going to be number 2. They pretty much took it out on Pittsburgh 42-10. Ohio State did well against Northwestern. Okay, Notre Dame's 3, by the way. Ohio State did well against Northwestern, 45-24. Oklahoma, they won going away against Texas, 39-27. If you want to say most complete teams, Ohio State probably has a little bit better defense than Oklahoma. I don't think it's much, but Oklahoma did avenge their loss, and Ohio State got embarrassed by Purdue like a few weeks ago. So come on. Oklahoma's probably going to be 4, and Ohio State's 5, looking in with Georgia probably at 6. Maybe Georgia's at 5. I don't know. There are experts, there are people who are saying that Georgia should be considered for that number 4 spot. I feel like they're a more complete team than Oklahoma. I feel like they're a more complete team than Ohio State. But that doesn't always mean that they would beat those teams had they played. Okay? Last year I feel like Georgia was a more complete team than Oklahoma. But in that game, Oklahoma had them. They had them. And they just let it slip through their fingers. That's what I don't like about this committee and the way this works. Well, they didn't have their quarterback, or they got a better defense. None of that stuff should matter. You shouldn't be talking about what did they do should be the ultimate decision on whether they get in or not. And I know their job's to put in the best 4 teams. I get that. But there's got to be a certain degree of earning your way into the playoffs, regardless if somebody thinks you're a better team than so-and-so. You got to earn your way into the playoffs. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. And, they're like, well, so-and-so is better than so. Now that they got their quarterback back and this and that and yada yada. And I'm like, come on, guys. That's ridiculous. You have got to earn your way into the playoffs. It shouldn't be because these guys think, because Alabama went into that game yesterday with nothing to worry about. They're going to get into the playoffs no matter what. Not because they necessarily earned it. Now, I'm not saying they didn't, but because the committee thinks they're one of the 4 better teams. Period. So no matter what happened yesterday, Alabama was in. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that whole philosophy or that process. I don't think it worked. I'm not going to say it doesn't work. I just don't think it's quite the way it should be. Okay. There should be a strict guideline to get into the playoffs, and then have a certain amount of at-large teams that get in based on how good they are. That way you address both scenarios. You address both the straight criteria to get in, and you also address making sure teams that are better than the other teams are able to get in. Okay, I think it should lean more towards the criteria to get in than the other way, just because you should earn your way in. The best team does not always win the championship. It's like that in every sport. Should be that way in college football, in my opinion. I'm not saying what I say is fact. I feel like it's better if it's like that. Anyway, I don't want to get too far off on all that, even though I did. I apologize, guys. But my college football playoff, like I said, is Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma. I feel like that's the 4 teams that's going to get in. My preseason prediction was Alabama. Well, it's going to be, say, in the order that I had. I thought Georgia was going to run the table and beat Alabama. So I thought it was going to be Georgia. No, I'm sorry. Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, and Michigan. I felt like that was going to be the 4 playoffs. So as it turns out, I missed one. So, no, there you go. I was 3 out of 4, but at the same time, I mean, everybody probably picked Georgia, Alabama, or Georgia, Clemson, and Alabama. Probably were pretty popular picks to make the playoffs. So, like I said, I'm not worried about being perfect or right or wrong or what have you. It was just, it was a shot in the dark. I threw it out there. I felt what I felt like was going to happen. I feel like Georgia is going to be extremely strong next season, so we'll see how that goes. On the outside looking in, you're going to have Central Florida. They're undefeated still. They've won 20-some-odd games in a row, so they're going to be upset that they're not in the playoffs, but their quarterback is out, so even if they were in the mix, they wouldn't get it because the committee would be like, well, their starting quarterback's gone. So there you go. Alright guys, that's all I got for this video. I hope everyone enjoys the pro football today and also the college football playoff selection show. We're going to finally see who gets in. Like I said, I gave you my 4. That's who I believe will get in. Please like, share, hit the subscribe button, and comment. Let me know if you agree with who I feel is going to get in. I want to hear if you got somebody different, please let me know. I'd love to hear that. And, let's get a discussion going, guys. Anyway, everybody enjoy your Sunday. Good football on today. So, this is Sports Banner 38. I am Coach Carroll, and we are out.